30. He separates. He's to the 20, to the 10, to the 5. Touchdown, Florida State. Warwick got up third down.
Winky looking Winky. Wants to throw the knockout punch to Warwick. Warwick open. Touchdown. He does a touchdown. He did catch it. Touchdown, Florida State. Oh, Peter Warwick, how'd you do that? Kermit Whitfield to the left side. A hole to the 30. Kermit Whitfield to the 30, to the 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, FSU. Kermit Whitfield, a 100-yard touchdown. Here's the snap. Winston rolling right. Throws the pass on the other. It's caught. It's caught. It's caught. Touchdown, FSU. Kelvin Benjamin.
We're doing it for everybody. We're doing it big all over the country, all over the world. And I'm proud. I'm proud to say I'm a Florida State Seminole.
This is the Garnet Old podcast with your hosts, Ryan Eastman and Vince Ciccarelli. Garnet Old LSU week. The time has come, Vince. We are headed to New Orleans. How are you feeling today?
Heading to NOLA. I'm super excited. I'm super excited to be 1-0. Garnet Old is 1-0, even without contacts, even without inside information, and we've had no problems thus far.
We are prepared for our road trip, our home and away, quote unquote, with LSU. I wish we were actually headed, to Tiger Stadium and headed to Doak Campbell next year, but instead, hey, there's a lot worse places you could settle for than New Orleans and Orlando next year. But I'm ready for this matchup, and I think it's going to be a good one. How are you feeling about it?
I'm feeling pretty good about it. I had a couple people ask me at work today, what are your thoughts? What are your feelings? I am optimistic. I mean, that's probably the word I'm going to use for this game. There's no way to know, but I am optimistic, and mostly because of what we saw last week. We can talk more about where, specifically the optimism, where it comes from.
Yeah, it's funny. You can't really take away a whole lot from the Duquesne game. I mean, we were supposed to win. What you can take away is that we looked better than we have against similar opponents to Duquesne in years past. So at bare minimum, we can say, yes, we have improved. How much we have improved, we won't know until this Sunday at 7:00. So this is the measuring stick game. If we come out and we're competing, whether we win or even if it's a close game and we do lose a close one, that will tell us that we probably have a really good shot at competing in every game that we're in this year, right? Even against, the likes of Clemson, Florida, Miami, but we should do well against our ACC brethren. If we struggle mightily against LSU, which I don't think is a high probability, but it's a chance, right, that it could happen. It's not impossible. Then we're sitting here kind of getting a little nervous headed into the Louisville game. Do you agree with that?
I do agree with that. So, the foundation of optimism I have could easily be crumbled, right? If we start to see some of the, the cracks in the armor that we've seen over the last 3 or 4 years. Now, we didn't. That's why I say the optimism I have comes from the fact that first game that we had, even though it was against, an inferior team, we weren't shooting ourselves in the foot. Like, we had consistency. We had a game plan, and the game plan was executed, not to perfection, but before this year, we can all look back on the previous 3 to 4 years and go, man, even against teams that we should be dominating, we are just. We just have it's like a clown car sometimes. It's like, what's going to happen next?
Yeah, and I keep coming back to the play of Jordan Travis last year and now coming into this year. It gives me a lot more confidence to say that we're going to, at least at the bare minimum, compete in this game, because when we were lining up with James Blackman at quarterback, all you could see in your head was a offensive line crumbling around him, and he's not super fast, and he would just get dropped. So now we have a competent, at minimum, offensive line. I think you would agree with that. And a quarterback that if something does break down, he can scramble. So I'm feeling better going into the game, knowing our defense is better, our offensive line is better, that we're at least going to be able to compete. So I know you brought up the depth chart. I don't think there's any big surprises here other than we do have, our center. It looks like available to us in an emergency situation is what I read into it. Maurice Smith, what this depth chart tells me is that Maurice Smith could play if we need him to. I don't think he will start on the line anywhere. I could see if Darius Washington went out, I could actually see Dylan Gibbons still coming in and helping out at center. But I do think Maurice Smith is available if we really need some help.
Yeah, I think the depth chart was not a surprise to anyone. The key, like you said, is, of those people that did not play in game one, who is really going to have some availability? And that would be the key one, right? The center position. We played 4 centers in the last game, down to a walk-on, I believe. And again, you didn't notice that as being such a problem because of the team we were playing. That would be a major problem if that happened in the next game. So, if Maurice Smith is available to play, and I don't know how much he'll be available to play, but that would be a big deal.
Absolutely. And the thing I like about us having to train up so many people on multiple different positions on the offensive line is that as the season continues, you're going to have injuries. It's going to happen. You could have injury at right guard, left guard. You could have it anywhere. And it seems like we've really gotten to a point now where all these guys are cross trained and can step in and help and actually be decent in that position. In years past, the line that we were rolling out there, if one went down, we would have a guy that would just be turning people loose, and we didn't even have a hope of a chance. So I feel definitely comfortable knowing that even if Maurice Smith can't go, and even if we had another injury, I still think we would be okay. And that's a nice luxury to have that we haven't had in a long time.
Yeah, if you think about it, I mean, the defensive line of LSU is probably their top segment. And if we're rolling out the offensive line from the last couple years against that team, forget it. There would be very little optimism for the game. But because we do have, a line that has, additional depth and additional quality depth that Coach Atkins has, built, you know, they really the offensive line doesn't have to dominate. The offensive line has to be adequate and average. If that happens, then we've got a really good chance to win this game.
Yeah, and let's not forget, I mean, we know a little bit about us after our last week. What I don't think really anyone has a clue on is what to expect from LSU. I mean, they still have talent, residual talent. It kind of reminds me of like when Jimbo left us. Although we had a mess in the locker room, we still had some talented hosses on the team that could come out and whoop you in the right situation, right? And I kind of feel like that's where LSU is. They did have a lot of guys transfer out, but they also had some guys transfer in. Still a ton of talent, but a lot of it's unproven talent, especially at like wide receiver, offensive line. And so really we're going into this game. We know nothing about LSU. We don't know if they're going to come out and that talent's really going to shine through, or we could come out and they look sloppy and confused, and we don't know if that quarterback is ready to start in this brand new system, brand new offensive system and defensive system. And so there's a lot of unknowns going into this game. And I think that's a huge factor going into this, is that LSU could look messy. In fact, we could get a big win and be very happy with it and think that we're on the right path, and then be shocked when we're in a bloody battle with Louisville in 2 weeks.
Right.
Because LSU could just not be ready to have their first game yet.
They could not. It's possible, because when you reference it to kind of how we were when Jimbo left, a lot of talent on the roster, but football's a team game, right? So you've got guys that end up freelancing a lot because they don't understand necessarily the new system that's in place. So they're just going strictly on talent alone, and you can win games that way. You can, for sure. But oftentimes you can't win games against teams that are consistent and solid and don't kill themselves, right? So that's the thing. There's talent on that team. Are they going to be coordinated this early in the Brian Kelly era of that team? Now, he's a great coach, right? He's a great coach. He needs to keep his blood pressure down, right? But he's a great coach. And but it takes time, as we have seen. It takes time to flip a locker room, and it takes time to establish whatever it is that your identity as a new coach to a system.
And one thing I want to throw out to everyone, just go look at it. Everyone at home listening to this, bring up Notre Dame's first game of the year, the last handful of years that Brian Kelly's been there. Even a team in which he is the head coach and has been there a long time, for whatever reason,
and a lot of talent,
Brian Kelly just does not necessarily have his team, tip-top shape. He doesn't usually come out and have a blowout against a competent opponent, game one, say like an Alabama.
We almost beat that team.
Yeah, Florida State had just being real, as a Florida State fan, we had no business pound for pound being in a game against Notre Dame last year.
That is correct.
And yeah, it was going down to the last second.
That's correct. And really had a chance to win the game, kick a field goal in overtime, I think, and that game is done, right? So we had a chance, even with a team that Brian Kelly's been around for a while. So this is not, Ryan and I are not saying that, we are destined to win this game. I'm just saying that there is a path to win this game. And that path is not like a Hail Mary path. That there is a legitimate path to winning this game.
And that brings us to kind of what we think it would take to win this game. And Vince and I have I think, highlighted some of our top level things that we think will win the game for us if we actually stick to the plan. So Vince, you want to pop up for those watching live? We kind of have our key takeaways. So I'll go first. And it really, for me, comes down to, when our offense gets on the field, it really has to be about Jordan Travis and the offensive line, right? So in order for him to be successful, he needs the line to stay upright. So I think it's extremely important, even if Maurice Smith can't go, that we still have Darius Washington or, the line mostly intact for most of the game. No other additional injuries that are not already there heading into this game. I think that gives Jordan Travis a chance to not just run around and scramble like he did all year last year against Notre Dame. I mean, he was running for his life most of that game and making some plays, but that's not how you want to win consistently. And I think for him to even have a chance to have a good game, I think we have to stay healthy, and that just means whoever we're going into this game with, we stick in the game with, and we don't have any additional injuries in the middle.
Right. I will throw my first one up here for key to the game, and I would say it's score first. If we score first, it puts us at a more relaxed, confident situation. If we fall behind, that definitely plays into what LSU would be for us to have to win the game throwing, right? And when you're winning the game throwing, that means that you have to allow, like Ryan said, a lot of time for your quarterback to make the reads, to make the throws. And against probably an elite defensive line, I don't know that, even though our offensive line has gotten better, I don't know that we are ready to take that next step to throw to win. So that would be my first key, is to make sure we score first, put the onus on them so that we're playing from ahead, so we can dictate terms and we can play the game that we want to play.
My second one, again, hence why the offensive line is so important. Brian Kelly in the press conference this week said that his plan defensively is to shut down the run and to box Jordan Travis. Basically, they're basically going to do QB contain and bring pressure to stop the run. When that happens, you have to change how they approach the game. And the only way you change how LSU approaches it defensively is to be able to throw the ball consistently over the top. If they come out for the first 2 series and they are loading the box and Jordan Travis has no running room and he hits Johnny Wilson for a 45-yard gain or a touchdown, and we maybe get a field goal after that on the next drive, and we're consistently moving the ball by throwing, I promise everyone at LSU will change up, and all of a sudden you'll see a 4-man front, and they'll back off a little bit, and then that creates the running room for the running backs and Jordan Travis to kind of improvise when he needs to. But LSU is not going to be afraid of the passing attack. Who would be, until we show that they should have something to worry about. So this is going to come down to I think the speed of Deuce Spann, I think is going to be important here. I think he's going to be a guy that we're going to look to really open up those deep routes, and Johnny Wilson for first down. I think Johnny Wilson, my idea of the perfect season for Johnny Wilson is for him to be the first down machine, 2nd and 6, 3rd and 8, and he goes to the first down line, bodies someone up and catches a first down. And then, all the other receivers just kind of mixed in between there. But I really think Johnny Wilson's going to be huge in this game. That's why it was so important that he gets back healthy. And from what I'm hearing, he's fine. I think he had a little rolled ankle over the weekend, probably could have played if we were in a game or anything like that. But we're already blowing out Duquesne. So they said, hey, rest up, big fella, for the next game. But Jordan Travis, come out, throw it, my man. We know it's in you. You've been talking about it a lot, about how you don't want people to kind of pigeonhole you into a running quarterback. Well, this is the game. Time to show it.
Yeah, I mean, what they're going to do is they're going to try to force that issue, and we're going to not allow them to force that issue. If we can get the 150-yard mark on the ground, and I don't even care, if it's a singular person, multiple people, because we've got a stable of backs for sure. And then you include Jordan Travis on top of that. If you can hit this mark and hit a couple passes, like Ryan said, it's true of any game. And so what Ryan are saying are not like these, like aha keys to the game. We cannot be one-dimensional. So if LSU is going to play to stop the run, whether that's the quarterback run, the running back run, or even the the quick screen game, which is kind of extension of the run game. They're going to play to stop that. We have to not allow that to happen. If we hit the 150 rush yard mark, hitting a couple passes, then we are in control. We're playing the game we want to play, and we're making them play from a on their heels kind of standpoint. The worst thing that can happen is for us to get stuffed on the rushes. And, I'm not throwing this out there for it to happen, right? I'm just saying that if we start seeing at the beginning of the game that we're not getting any running lanes or whatever, do not panic. This is one of the things that Mike Norvell and his staff and all of his staffs that he's been part of, they have found ways to get people open in space, to get people to the place they need to be a positive when they're on the field, whether that's rushing yards, passing yards, or whatever. So even early in the game, the anxiety, the energy is going to be high. You might see some tackles for loss to start with. I don't know. But in the end, if we end up with 150 rushing yards, I think that bodes well for our ability to, at the very least, keep it a close game. And, from the other side of that, to win the game.
Switching sides of the ball, my final key is the defensive line eating. So we are going to assume, even though Brian Kelly was being coy about it, that Daniels is going to start for them. So transfer from Arizona State. If you look at his numbers, it's not that impressive. I know it's Arizona State, so ASU didn't have a ton of talent around him.
They beat us.
But if you look at his numbers, I believe last year, it was either last year. No, I think it was last year. He had 10 touchdowns, 10 interceptions with a 60% completion rate. This is not Joe Burrow coming out for LSU and we're just going to be like screwed from the beginning because he's going to throw for 500 yards. This guy turns the ball over a ton, not a super high completion percentage. So if he's in his first game of the year in a brand new system, miscommunications happen. We had a couple miscommunications in this past game. We kind of hopefully ironed a lot of those out, but they haven't had that chance. All they've had is scrimmages. So my hope is that the defensive line that we've heard a ton about, probably the most talented part of our team, is the defensive line. If they come out and they can consistently get pressure on this guy, hey, an ideal day is a panicker who throws a pick or two right to us. Then you're talking about it going from, man, nail biter, but we can win, see how it goes, to they start turning the ball over. Things can go south in a hurry. In fact, this being my last key, this is actually the thing I think will happen. The thing I think has the highest percentage of happening out of all my keys is the defensive line having a day against their very inexperienced offensive line and getting home to their quarterback. And that bodes well for us because I think our quarterback is experienced and has been in big games. And I like us to honestly just outscore them in how much we can do offensively compared to them in their first game.
Yeah, I'm Jaden Daniels. I mean, that's the thing. If we have to contain him, right? He has the ability to get out and make you pay with your legs. I mean, I don't think he is a Jordan Travis type of elite, but he can definitely make you pay. Keep him in the pocket, and if he beats you throwing, then he does, right?
Yeah, he's Malik Cunningham type running.
Right. So that's really important. I totally agree with you on that. So the last thing for me, and this again kind of goes with the let's not get into a track meet, right? Which is let's not give anything away cheap. So, if you follow Florida State, which people that are watching do, right? Otherwise, why would you be watching? There's been a couple years in a row now where we've just turned guys loose in the secondary and just people are looking around like, I thought he was your guy. And then people are, they're running into the end zone. So I don't want to give away anything cheap. Got to make them work for it. When you make an offense work for it, you provide them more opportunities to commit an error. And whether that is, making the wrong read, fumbling the ball, throwing an interception, whatever the case may be, make them drive the field and make them earn it. Nothing cheap. And I think, again, you combine these keys that I have, score first, pound it on the ground to that mark and make them work for everything. I would take the under on this game. I think the total is 51, maybe 51 and a half. If we get the under on that, I like our chances to win this game. Those are the keys. Ryan, do you have anything to add before we pull this down?
No, I mean, going off that, you just talked about the spread, the total a little bit. Why don't you go ahead and just give us your score prediction for the game? Who you got?
Oh boy, yeah, here you go. Right, you're going to throw me at it. So I'm optimistic about this game. I think that we're looking at a 28 to 20 game, 28-21 game. I'll take Florida State in that game. And I'm trying not to pick with my heart because it's really hard for me not to do. But I'm pretty even keel, Ryan. You've known me for years. We've got more than a puncher's chance in this game, and I do like the consistency of staff. The first game where we saw proof of concept in that growth, and I do think that this is going to be Mike Norvell's first, big win.
Surprise win, yeah, because
surprise win. Okay, surprise win.
I don't think we were shocked when we beat Miami last year.
No, I wasn't. No.
Yeah, Miami wasn't a good team, so it was nice, but it wasn't a shock. So this will be in my opinion, we will get the win, and I'm actually going 35-14. And let me break down a little bit why I'm so bullish. And what's funny is I was not this bullish on any game last year. I do think our defensive line gives them a problem, and I think their defensive line gives us problems.
For sure.
However, I trust our quarterback in a system that he knows like the back of his hand and the athleticism to get a couple quick scores where, he loves to hit those little wheel routes, those little running, a couple wheel routes maybe to the running backs. Maybe we hit Johnny Wilson for a touchdown, and then those running backs are just I think they're going to have a day. Whereas I really feel that LSU is going to come into this game and play well. I could see the first drive or two, like them maybe scoring right off the bat to like touchdown LSU right off the bat. But as the game settles down, and our defense actually calms down, gets in the groove, I could see a couple turnovers from the LSU side. I could see him throwing a couple interceptions, because I looked at some of his replays on some of his games, and when he was in big games, he looked confused. If you go back and watch some of those highlights, if any of you are interested, go watch some of Daniel's highlights at ASU. He tends to come in droves too. When he throws one, he generally has 1, 2, sometimes even 3. So I like us to consistently score throughout the whole night, and I like them to consistently struggle and maybe even have a few turnovers where at halftime maybe it's tied or we're up by 3 or they're up by 3, but then I like us consistently continuing to score and them, down the stretch have some issues, simply because they haven't had a game yet. Now if this game was 6 games from now, I might be predicting LSU to win.
Sure. I mean, if you look at the reason why LSU is favored, and they're only favored by 3, and it's pretty much a home game for them. So from a betting standpoint, that's considered a toss-up game, right? So, but it is the first year. LSU wasn't great last year, right? I don't remember what their record was. They were 500, right? So they also have had their confidence eroding. Their coach, gets let go, who they loved, even as strange as that guy is, they loved him. This new guy comes in, regardless of his pedigree. Are the players really bought in and believing in what he's building there? That's why if you see any kind of obstacles in their way, if anything starts going negatively for them, what happens? What do they do? Do they stick to the game plan, or do they start freelancing and start to be, I'm going to win this game on my own? We experienced all that kind of stuff, right?
Willie's first year was a lot of we're just trying to win it by ourselves.
We don't trust what's going on yet, so I'm going to do what I want to do, and then what you have is 11 guys doing different things, right? So if we get some negativity rolling in their direction, then the question is, what happens to that team from a mentality standpoint? I'm pretty confident that even if some negative things happen to our team, the guys are bought in. I don't think that that's a problem. We may not be good enough to win the game, and that's okay, right? But I don't think it's going to be because, the wheels come off because everybody all of a sudden is just reverting to past ghosts. I don't think that would happen with us. Now, hey, I could be wrong, but I don't, nothing has shown me for that to be the case.
Yeah, I mean, most of the team is the same as it was last year, and that last 6 games last year, we were down several times, and we never stopped fighting. I mean, that's what we loved about the team at the end of the year last year, is that they were going to punch and kick and scream to the very end. John, I do love the question. Yes, of course. Even if we had the greatest passing game on the face of the earth, and we were Joe Burrow in 2018, no one wants to show a ton of game, in the first game against a Duquesne. We ran the most vanilla looks and plays. I mean, we did a counter. How many times did we do a counter run and a RPO? It was over and over because they couldn't stop us. We didn't have to show them anything. So that's the good news. If we had been in a fight with Duquesne and struggling like we have in past years with similar opponents, we probably would have had to show stuff that we didn't want to show in order to try to win the game, but we didn't have to do that. I mean, if you were at the game, I'm sure everyone who watched on TV saw it too, but it felt like 80% run on purpose just because we knew they couldn't stop us.
Yeah, and that's the positive of that. The negative of that, if there is one, is that being able to execute some of those passing concepts in a real live game is beneficial. So you're going to see that in the game against LSU, but it's going to be the first time they're doing it in live games. So you might get some inconsistency with timing or maybe nerves or whatever. So there's always a yin and a yang to that. They're definitely positive that we didn't have to show anything, but it's also a little bit of a negative that we didn't get a chance to rep it in live.
And
absolutely a great question.
Great question. And anyone can ask a question on whenever we do these live on Facebook or on YouTube. Vince, before you wrap things up, I want to take just a quick trip down memory lane, because I know that you were in New Orleans in 1999, weren't you?
I was. I got a couple memories to share. First of all, this hat was the last time I was in New Orleans.
For those not watching and listening on podcast, it's a national championship hat from 99.
I was actually watching the game from the basketball arena next door, and because the high school marching band that I was leading at the time was invited to play at the bowl game. So we played at the bowl game, but the kids didn't get to stay in the dome. We had to watch the game from another place. So, but my wife did get to go in. I found her a ticket, and she got to go into the game. So that's the last time I was in New Orleans. But let me throw up a little bit of real big nostalgia here for you. This is some quality material here. In 1991. My first year with the Marching Chiefs.
You had all kinds of hair. Look at that.
I did have some hair back then, and this is Baton Rouge, and Florida State got down pretty early in this game, and then if you were at that game or if you remember this game, it was complete monsoon, and it was. I mean, what you're seeing there is rain droplets on old school camera with film, right? So that's that, and that's the rally cap you're seeing there, because as you know, we did come back and win that game. Here's a good shot also of the Marching Chiefs. This is the beginning of the fourth quarter, playing fourth quarter fanfare. You can see again more raindrops there.
And those lovely old outfits.
And the old uniforms. This is some quality podcasting material. I'll give you another shot here. Same kind of deal.
Those who aren't on the video, Vince is showing a picture of him streaking across the field.
That is not what's happening. Some more rain shots, and then one of our listeners or one of our watchers that was watching last week. I'm going to pop a picture up right here of her husband. He wasn't her husband at the time. We were all really young at the time. But this is a shot of the drum major. Where is it? Yeah, there it is. There you go. With the rally cap on. And we ended up winning that game. I think we got down early, like 13-0, and then came back and won the game, much to the chagrin of a particular stadium security guard near me that was not he was not careful with his words that he was saying to me as we were leaving the stadium. We ended up winning the game. We also ended up losing quite a bit of linemen to injury at this game, which I think was kind of the beginning of the downturn of that season. We ended up losing to Miami and then to Florida at the end of the game because we were just crushed with injuries after this game.
One thing I do appreciate from that,
there you
Vince,
go.
And thank you for showing those.
Yeah.
Man, have cameras come a long way. I mean, you couldn't even
My
see
hair hasn't come a long way.
It literally looks like you can see nothing except for the people in front of you, and the flash was just the only thing that like you could see in those pictures. Now we're shooting in 4K, which is incredible. And I wish I had a picture, but Vince, to be honest with you, the first this will kind of make you sad. The earliest picture of me actually at an FSU game, now I was at other FSU games before this. The first picture I have is me wearing a Drew Weatherford jersey in 2005 against the Citadel. That's the earliest picture I have. And
that's some old
at that
school
moment,
stuff,
I was 17.
Man. That's some old school stuff.
Drew Weatherford for Heisman.
So, Ryan, you're leaving tomorrow, right?
I am, yeah. And getting a house in Old Nolans. It should be fun. I wanted to, have enough time, especially on Saturday. I want to enjoy the full day without having to travel or anything. And then on Sunday, probably get a nice andouille sausage breakfast, somewhere. Maybe a few beverages. I might stop and get some registered sausage on the way. The andouille especially is really good.
Oh my goodness.
But I can tell you this.
We need our own sponsors.
There's a lot of good food in New Orleans, and I've never been there. My wife has, and I'm excited to experience it. I've had, of course, when you tell people you're going to New Orleans and they've been there, they throw out like, hey, you should go to this restaurant. And that doesn't mean anything to you because you don't even know where or what that place is. And they're like, no, you got to go. And you're like, well, yes, but I don't know where I'm staying, where that restaurant is. And text it to me if you actually want me to go there with a map location or else it's probably going to be a no.
Yeah, we'll take any recommendations that you have. My family, we're leaving on Friday morning after my daughter takes a test at school. We're getting her out of school then, and we're leaving. Staying at a hotel with some friends of ours. I think I mentioned this on the last pod. Friend of mine that I went to school with back in the day. He's an LSU grad, so we're going to be spending
Ed Orgeron
together. It is not. It's also not Farmer Fran, if you're familiar with that reference.
Oh, tires.
So we're leaving on Friday, and again, us too. We're looking forward to the ambiance, the food, the music, and just being together. Think about it. This is the first. This is the first, I think, really big game post-COVID. Since COVID happened, it's like a neutral site game where, there's no restrictions. Like the full band, like all of Chiefs are going. The whole band is going.
No
and
mask.
I know the tickets sold out. The game is sold out. Our allotment sold out, and the game is sold out. So it's just going to have, to me, I think it's going to have like a bowl-like atmosphere, and you're going to be there with 40,000 of your closest friends. So if you haven't planned on going, just make the choice. Don't pay the rent. Just go. You may. If we win the game, you're going to be able to say, I was there.
I'm a huge fan and proponent of indoor AC-based environments in September.
Yeah.
So it doesn't suck that it's in the Superdome with AC. And we actually, I don't know, knock on wood, everyone who lives in Florida or anywhere on the coast, man, this hurricane season's been great so far. There's nothing. We got nothing planned. That's what's happening here. And I can tell you for the last 5 or 6 years, what would you say, Vince, in the first 2 games of the season, it's been like we're watching something or something is hitting, or it's just been like, should we go? Should we not go? From the Boise State game getting moved from Jacksonville, which still to this day sucks because we were all going to get together. There was a game against when the hurricane hit in Tallahassee, and when I was still living there in 2017, and messed opening weekend of games up, and I lost power. So how about that? No hurricanes on the map right now. We are going to LSU without any concerns about the weather. So all of you out there, we look forward to seeing you. And again, I do want to mention you could follow us on all podcast services, Apple, Google, Spotify, whatever you got. We're on it. YouTube, Facebook. You can follow us, Garnet Old on Facebook, Garnet_Old on Twitter.
We're doing it all over the
email
world.
us if you have any suggestions or concerns. No complaints. We just delete those. GarnetandOld@gmail.com. Vince, any final words?
No, I would just say, again, Ryan and I really enjoyed doing this, and we've loved so far doing the live part of it. The more comments, the better. Tell all your friends. Tell your friends, and let's start to build the community here.
Tell Mike Norvell.
It makes the pod better. It makes the pod better. And we really enjoy the interaction with all of you. We'll see you, Ryan. I'll see you in New Orleans. And again, like we did in the last tailgate, we'll throw up a quick, impromptu live from somewhere, just to give everybody a little bit of ambiance of what's going on. But in the meantime, enjoy the rest of your week, everybody, and go Noles. This is Garnet Old. No inside info, no contacts, no problem.
Have a great week, everyone. See you in New Orleans. Go Noles.
Go Noles.